Hello, this is Jerry Morton. Welcome to my podcast series titled Finding My Way, a memoir by Jerry Morton. This is podcast 70, titled More of the Unexpected. Podcast 70 is an account of several more unexpected challenges before me during the second year of being a school psychologist in 7 intercity schools of St. Petersburg, Florida, during the 1970-71 school year. This was the first year that the school system began bringing white children into the formerly all-black schools and black children into formerly all-white schools. Podcast 70, More of the Unexpected. The 2 remedial reading teachers at the junior high school I had assisted in implementing the RAID system for classroom management purposes made a new request. They were so pleased with the transformation of their lowest reading group that they asked me to observe another section of low readers they were assisting. They explained that this group was much more socially accepting of them than was the case with the lowest group of readers before the implementation of the RAID strategies. This was the 1970-71 school year, the first year that the school system was bringing white children in to attend classes in the all-black junior high school. Unfortunately, the teachers found that the assigned reading material for the struggling readers was boring. The reading material was culturally outdated and dull, they said. The 2 teachers requested that I sit in the back of the classroom and observe them try to engage the students' interest in the material. From my observations, it was obvious that while the students were orderly and polite to the teachers, they had absolutely no interest in what they were asked to read. At the end of the school day, the 2 teachers and I explored ways to engage the students in new reading assignments. They reported that their supervisor would support them in any innovative methods they wanted to use to cause the students to improve their reading skills. After a lot of ideas were discussed, the one the teachers thought that had the greatest possibility of success was to bring fairly recent newspapers to class and have the students read the headlines. The headlines that caught the students' attention would serve as an impetus for some students to want to read more of the article. From there, the student readers could report on the full story to the class. In the event that the newspaper story was challenged by a student, or a student wanted to know more about the topic, the teachers would assist those interested learners in finding more reading material on it. The teachers were so excited about implementing the new idea to stimulate the students' desire to read that they wanted to start the strategy the next day. I agreed to rearrange my schedule to be in the class to observe their efforts and the results. Holding up an old St. Petersburg Times front page, the teacher asked for volunteers to read the lead headline. There were none. Carefully pointing to each word as she read it, she read, "Man walks on moon." The entire class broke into spontaneous laughter. Their laughter was truly genuine as the teacher stared at the class, trying to understand what was so funny. The co-teacher quickly walked back to me and asked, "What is funny?" "I don't know. I really don't know. Why don't you ask the kids?" "I will." And with that, she walked to the front of the classroom and raised the question, "Why do you find the headline funny?" "Oh, you don't really believe they do that?" spontaneously spoke one student. Another young person chimed in. They just say that to explain what happened to all of the money they were supposed to give us, to pay the streets here, cover up the sand they threw down, to tell us that was good enough for us to drive on, stuff like that. What they really do with our money, nobody knows. That brought a wide chorus of, "That's right. You got that down, man. Keep talking. You got that right. Don't stop now. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth about here. Man, get on it." The teachers were stunned. I was stunned. All of the students seemed to be in agreement. This was their truth. The teachers looked at me. I shrugged. It was what it was. These two creative teachers quickly adjusted. They got a couple of students to agree to take the paper to their desk and read through the article so that they could report on it to the whole class. They told the new readers that they hoped that when they reported to the class on what the paper said, they could say what facts could be accepted in it that supported their position that the moonwalk was a government hoax. Likewise, where there were so-called facts in the article that supported the idea that men actually walked on the moon, the readers needed to let everybody know about it. That way, readers in the class who wanted to challenge those facts could look up more information on them. The teachers would help the fact-checkers get to the right reading material in the school library and in other sources as needed. The teachers had a motivated class of readers. Thanks to the close working relationship the junior high school guidance counselors and I had developed, I began receiving more and more unusual requests for assistance. One morning, when I arrived at the school, a counselor asked me to see a student. She said several teachers were not able to get this student to do any schoolwork. He just sat at his desk through his classes without saying a word, getting a book or a piece of paper out to write on, or engage in any other productive activity. He didn't do anything. He just sat there. The child wasn't a behavior problem. He just didn't interact with anyone or anything in the classroom. From my perspective, this was hard to believe. The child would be listening. He would be looking at something. His mind had to be active. I had some time open in the early afternoon, so I agreed to meet with the student for about an hour. It was puzzling as to what I could do to help the student or to advise his teacher as to how to help him. What was I going to do? I didn't have a clue. I was introduced to the child in the general office area for the guidance counselors. I held out my hand, hoping he would accept to shake it. He did, without speaking a word. We entered the little room I used for interviews, motioning for the student to sit in the only chair available to him, as I sat in the remaining chair. I explained why I thought we were meeting. It was reported to me that your teachers were concerned that you did not appear to be interested in anything they were teaching. They were concerned that you did not interact with them when they asked questions, and that you just didn't seem to have any classmates that you wanted to interact with. The child just sat in the chair, looking at the floor. Our two chairs were not directly opposite each other, although they were fairly close together. It was a small room. "It's all right to be quiet," I calmly stated. "We can just sit here until there's something one of us wants to say." This was strange, I thought. Well, in my counseling course at Miami of Ohio, I seemed to remember that Carl Rogers would wait a client out in silence until the silence bothered that individual enough that he said something. I decided that I could wait the child out. I could be quiet for a longer period of time than the student could. Maybe 5 minutes passed in silence. It could have been longer. The silence was getting to me. The child was better at being quiet than I was. I was going to have to say or do something. I didn't know what that something was. Then I saw it. He had rested one leg on top of the other. The foot suspended in the air was nervous. It was nervously twitching. The child had been silent all this time, but his body was communicating some clues as to what was going on in his mind. "I see your foot is jiggling." Then I allowed seconds to pass before saying, "This situation is making you anxious." Seconds passed, and then I say, "That's okay. I feel a little anxious myself." More seconds tick by before I say, "It's okay to be silent. Others don't always understand it, but it's okay." Then I noticed that he let out a little sigh as he exhaled. "You're feeling a little more relaxed. That's good. I like that." For the rest of the hour, I just made little comments every few minutes about what I thought he was experiencing by how he used his body. The child did seem to be far more relaxed at the end of the hour than when we had first begun our time together. At least, that was my impression. The child never spoke to me. The rest of the day was pretty rushed, so I didn't have time to talk to the guidance counselor about the child that day. When I returned to the junior high school on my regularly scheduled visit 2 weeks later, the child's referring guidance counselor rushed up to me. What did you tell that child?" What do you mean?" I blurted from my lips as I thought something bad must have happened. "Well, all of his teachers tell me that ever since you talked with him, he's a transformed person. He talks to the teachers and students and always gets his work done and does a good job with it. What did you do?" How could I answer the question? I don't know what I did that could have sparked such a transformation. I just sat there trying to read what his body was saying and responding to those messages. Maybe something happened for him at home that caused the change. I just don't know." Here's another example of the unexpected at the junior high school. I was walking across the open campus with the 4 guidance counselors, 2 men and 2 women, when the larger of the 2 male guidance counselors started shouting at a young black man walking across the sidewalk. I assumed he was a student. "What are you doing on this campus? You're supposed to never, ever be back on this campus. What are you?" As these words were being shouted, the young man looked at first to be stunned. He quickly recovered and began backing away from our approaching group. The large guidance counselor grabbed the young man by the arm. The man pulled away from the aggressive counselor while causing the counselor to rush towards the man. They began wrestling and fell to the ground right in front of me. Their violent struggle quickly increased in intensity. Maybe I should jump into the fight. Wow, that young man is full of muscle. He could overpower me. The fighting guidance counselor is bigger than the guy, being at least 25 years older and overweight. The counselor could not match the man's strength. He was overmatched. Suddenly, up in my face flies a black snub-nosed pistol. I reach into the air. I catch it. It's a 6-shooter. Wait a minute. The round chamber that holds the bullets has no holes. It's just a solid block of metal. It's a starter's pistol. It's not a real gun. It's a starter's pistol that's used to start races in a track meet. I've seen it used to start races in my high school and college track days. This young man, is pretending to be a bad guy, but he isn't. He's going to get himself killed carrying this thing. The young man rips away from the grounded counselor. He's standing directly in front of me. He's freed himself from the large man's grip. The big man's on the ground and the young man is facing me as I hold the pistol, the starter pistol, in my 2 hands in front of my chest. We lock eyes. He knows I know what the pistol is. As quick as a mousetrap springs, he reached out and grabbed the pistol out of my hand as he turns and sprints to the street. "Oh, did he get the pistol?" the counselor asked me, rising from the sidewalk. "Yes, he grabbed it and out of my hands and ran. It wasn't a real pistol, it was a starter pistol." I wish you could have held on to it." "Well, I'll report this to the police." One late morning in the early spring, one of the women counselors in the junior high school's office came running up to me, almost out of breath. "Jerry, a girl passed out in the girls' bathroom down the hallway. Go in there and see what you can do. We've called an ambulance. They'll be here in a minute or two. I've got to man the phones. Hurry, get there as quick as you can." I ran down the hall to the girls' bathroom. What was there for me to do? This could be really awkward. I'll have to be careful. There she was, out cold, lying on her side in front of a row of bathroom stalls. No one else was in the bathroom. I got on my hands and knees to lean forward for a closer look at her face. Her eyes were almost completely closed. She had a steady breathing pattern. She sure looked to me to be totally unconscious. Bang! The bathroom door burst open. 2 girls started to come in, but stopped in a jerk. They see me kneeling beside the unconscious girl and slowly back out. Maybe the girl can hear even if she's unconscious. Maybe there's a part of her mind that's not unconscious. Maybe this is like a panic attack. I don't know. Well, I feel like a fool just sitting here looking at her. I've got to do something. At the NTL training, I had learned a relaxation strategy. Maybe this would work. Okay, here goes. In a calm, mellow, and quiet voice, I say, "You can hear me. You understand what I am saying. You are frightened. You don't know what has happened to you. You are very tense." After a brief pause, I continue. I am going to help you release your tension. I am going to help you relax. We will start slowly relaxing a little part of your body and then expand to other parts until you are totally relaxed. This will be easy for you. Another pause. Let's focus on your left thumb. The thumb that is on the floor by your face. In your mind, I want you to tighten all of the muscles in that thumb that you can. Good. Now tighten them even tighter. Good. Tighter. And hold it. Hold it tight. And now, slowly, very slowly release those muscles. Slowly, slowly release them. You can feel the end of your thumb relaxing. It's real. You can feel it relaxing. It is so relaxed that you can now wiggle the end of your thumb. You can wiggle it. You know you can wiggle it. Go ahead. Wiggle your thumb. To my amazement, it moved. She moved her thumb. This was it. She was in a fear-induced state. I continued the relaxation exercises to her fingers, her hands, and then her arms. She responded with movements at a faster and faster pace, despite the bathroom door being frequently pushed open, only to slowly close. By the time the ambulance personnel arrived with their stretcher, the girl was standing up. She was able to answer the first responders' questions as she climbed onto the stretcher and they strapped her down.